This is an emergency broadcast of the Uncovering Anomalies podcast. This is not a drill. Remove any children and pets from your home and go to your nearest shelter. Remember to at all times listen to the Uncovering Anomalies podcast. And whatever you do, do not under any circumstances trust what you see.
Start with some fun bits you sent since yes, we are recording.
All right.
Oh, look at that banner. See?
There it is.
YouTube now.
Yeah, we're on YouTube now. Look at that.
We're on YouTube. Maybe temporarily, not sure.
We'll see how it goes.
Especially after today's show, since it is the anniversary of 9/11, right?
Yes. Technically, it's tomorrow, but
Tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, we decided to do a deep dive on 9/11 because it is the, I don't know how many years anniversary of that
22 years.
Terrible day.
Yeah, I mean, it's not funny, but we are going to have some comedy in the beginning, because that's the best way really to convey some messages, right? Or a lot of messages that are disturbing. A great way is to be funny about it, right?
Yeah, and just try and keep the mood as light as possible because this is not a light topic.
No, it's not. Not at all. Not at all. And I'm going to get rid of this ticker. Oh wait, do you want to introduce the show?
Yeah, but I kind of think you should keep the ticker.
Oh, all right. Let's keep it. Okay,
I
so
like,
the reason
I like
why
it.
The reason why we're the ticker.
It makes us look like we're like official and
legit. We're getting there. I think we're getting there. Yeah.
Anyway, so this is the Uncovering Anomalies podcast.
Yeah.
As always, I am joined by my co-host. I want to believe Adam.
I think I'm going to change that to Kiss the Mic, Adam. How about that?
Kiss. Well, yeah, okay, all right.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
You do you, man. And I am Tip Top Goatee Topher.
I like Tip Top Goatee. Yeah, I like that. So
I've got a goatee right now, but I'm thinking about shaving it. I want to do a Fu Manchu. Unfortunately, my mustache doesn't fully connect with my chin hair.
Oh, just like me. Genetic, huh?
Yeah. We should have got better grandparents.
I know. Our genes are just way too mixed up.
I'm just kidding. Love our grandparents.
Of course. And do you have a Louis?
Yeah, we've got a lot of DNA in our blood, man.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, a lot. I mean, pretty much everything. There's like a little things missing there, but I mean, we're like we're total global citizens, as they call it.
Yes, absolutely.
Man, we have a lot to get to. The 9/11 stuff alone, there's just so much to get through, and I'm sure we'll just gloss over. And then there's a lot of the UFO stuff to get to. So I don't know if we're gonna get to everything.
We'll do our best.
We'll do our best. No one's
it'll probably be another long episode like last week, but it'll be really fun to edit, and I'll be doing it for the rest of the day. But that's fine. That's why we're here. We like to do this.
Exactly. We're dedicated. We're dedicated to this. We're dedicated to the audience. We're dedicated to uncovering anomalies, right?
Absolutely.
So let's start with something you sent me. That has to do with 9/11, but not really. But it's an aftermath of 9/11, and we're all, I guess, annoyed of. So this is one of our favorite channels. This is AJ. There's Hecklefish.
Yeah, this is the 9/11 aftermath humor.
Yes, let's press play.
And the airport was buzzing. These were the days before full body scanners. And
remove your laptops, tablets, and place them in their own dirty plastic tray that's still wet from the last guy for some reason.
Right.
Take off your belt, your shoes, and remove any lotions, creams, and gels, and place your personal items in another dirty plastic tray. If there are no trays available, please fight over them. And say take bets to see how angry we can make you. If you become violent in 3 minutes or less, I win $20. Step forward and have your rights completely trampled by an angry middle-aged man in a blue shirt. Once you step through our x-ray machine that may or may not cause cancer, we may decide to put on plastic gloves and fondle you in front of a group of strangers. This is what we in the TSA call the cherry on top.
You good?
Dude.
Oh man, I
That's what
love
we
Hecklefish
call
so
the
much.
Yeah, me too. Dude.
That's
What
so
a
funny.
character. What a character. Well, there's another one. I don't know if you've ever seen this. It's called 9/11: The Truth in 5 Minutes. It's also humorous about a subject that's not funny. But here, I don't know if you maybe you have, maybe you haven't.
I'm pretty sure I have, but let's give it a listen.
It's an important one, I think, if we're gonna delve into this topic.
On the morning of September 11th, 2001, 19 men armed with box cutters, directed by a man on dialysis in a cave fortress halfway around the world using a satellite phone and a laptop, directed the most sophisticated penetration of the most heavily defended airspace in the world, overpowering the passengers and the military combat-trained pilots on 4 commercial aircraft before flying those planes wildly off course for over an hour without being molested by a single fighter interceptor. These 19 hijackers, devout religious fundamentalists who like to drink alcohol, snort cocaine, and live with pink-haired strippers, managed to knock down 3 buildings with 2 planes in New York, while in Washington, a pilot who couldn't handle a single-engine Cessna was able to fly a 757 in an 8,000-foot descending 270-degree corkscrew turn to come exactly level with the ground, hitting the Pentagon and the Budget Analyst Office where DoD staffers were working on the mystery of the $2.3 trillion that Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld had announced missing from the Pentagon's coffers in a press conference the day before, on September 10th, 2001. Luckily, the news anchors knew who did it within minutes.
Osama bin Laden.
The pundits knew within hours.
Osama bin Laden.
The administration knew within the day.
Terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbored them.
And the evidence literally fell into the FBI's lap.
That a hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
But for some reason, a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists demanded an investigation into the greatest attack on American soil in history. That investigation was delayed, underfunded, set up to fail, a conflict of interest, and a cover-up from start to finish. It was based on testimony extracted through torture, the records of which were destroyed. It failed to mention the existence of WTC-7, Able Danger, P-TECH, Sibel Edmonds, OBL and the CIA, and the drills of hijacked aircraft being flown into buildings that were being simulated at the precise same time that those events were actually happening. It was lied to by the Pentagon, the CIA, the Bush administration, and as for Bush and Cheney, well, no one knows what they told it because they testified in secret, off the record, not under oath, and behind closed doors. It didn't bother to look at who funded the attacks because that question is ultimately of little practical significance. Still, the 9/11 Commission did brilliantly answering all of the questions the public had, except most of the victims' family members' questions, and pinned blame on all the people responsible, although no one so much as lost their job, determining the attacks were
failure of imagination.
Because
Nobody in our government, at least, and I don't think the prior government that could envision flying airplanes into buildings.
Except the Pentagon, FEMA, NORAD, and the NRO. The DIA destroyed 2.5 terabytes of data on Able Danger, but that's okay because it probably wasn't important. The SEC destroyed their records on the investigation into the insider trading before the attacks, but that's okay because destroying the records of the largest investigation in SEC history is just part of routine record keeping. NIST has classified the data that they used for their model of WTC-7's collapse, but that's okay because knowing how they made their model of the collapse would jeopardize public safety. The FBI has argued that all material related to their investigation of 9/11 should be kept secret from the public, but that's okay because the FBI probably has nothing to hide. This man never existed, nor is anything he had to say worthy of your attention, and if you say otherwise, you are a paranoid conspiracy theorist and deserve to be shunned by all of humanity. Likewise him, and her. And her, and her, and him. Osama bin Laden lived in a cave fortress in the hills of Afghanistan, but somehow got away. Then he was hiding out in Tora Bora, but somehow got away. Then he lived in Abbottabad for years, taunting the most comprehensive intelligence dragnet employing the most sophisticated technology in the history of the world for a decade, releasing video after video with complete impunity and getting younger and younger as he did so, before finally being found in a daring SEAL team raid which wasn't recorded on video, in which he didn't resist or use his wife as a human shield, and in which these crack special forces operatives panicked and killed this unarmed man, supposedly the best source of intelligence about those dastardly terrorists on the entire planet. Then they dumped his body in the ocean before telling anyone about it. Then a couple dozen of that team's members died in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan. This is the story of 9/11, brought to you by the media which told you the hard truths about
his head could be seen to move violently forward.
And
they took the babies out of the incubators.
And
mobile production facilities.
And
the rescue of Jessica Lynch.
If you have any questions about this story, you are a batshit paranoid tinfoil dog-abusing baby hater and will be reviled by everyone. If you love your country and or freedom, happiness, rainbows, rock and roll, puppy dogs, apple pie, and your grandma, you will never ever express doubts about any part of this story to anyone. Ever. This has been a public service announcement by the Friends of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DIA, SEC, MSM, White House, NIST, and the 9/11 Commission.
That's actually, I thought I'd seen that, but I hadn't. That's
strength.
Ignorance is strength.
That's James Corbett.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty wild video. I mean, you remember how patriotic the country was after 9/11. I mean, and you really couldn't question anything because you'd be called a nut. I mean, we're finally far enough away from the event where people are starting to ask questions, and everything that's brought up in that video, is a really valid point.
Yeah, and he uses comedy because that's a great way of raising our awareness and talking about something that's disturbing. Our defenses are lowered, right, and we can allow information to come in, and it just makes a mockery of the entire thing because it is ridiculous as usual, just like COVID is ridiculous.
None of it really makes any sense.
It doesn't, and even to this day. It's so weird, Topher. People still don't know what the hell happened, and they're still talking about it. It really is a weird thing. You sent me this. CIA didn't share info about 9/11 hijackers. This is a big topic. I mean, a general topic about the excuse why we got a Department of Homeland Security that we were seeing that the different departments within our government were not sharing information.
Well, I think kind of notoriously the FBI and the CIA don't like to work together.
Yeah, and they do compete, right? And they spy against each other too.
Yeah.
So, but we created this monstrosity of a bureaucracy after 9/11, right? DHS, Department of Homeland Security, that's supposed to oversee all these guys. And what are they doing now? It's just like the whole border stuff, isn't it? Which they leave open. I mean,
yeah.
I
actually, this is going to completely derail everything, but did you see that the mayor of New York City was complaining about the the migrants that are moving in?
It's going to destroy this city. Yeah, we've been saying for 3 years. Everyone it's going to destroy this country.
And NYC is technically a sanctuary city. They asked for this.
It's so funny.
And now they're complaining about it. Anyway,
especially him. Yeah, he's quoted saying that, right? That we are a sanctuary city. We'll never,
And so they get shipped migrants, or immigrants. I don't know. Anyway, and then he complains about it. But let's get back to 9/11.
Man, I mean, the thing is, there's so many documentaries that are so long. But I guess we should go into what these documentaries say. So another one from Corbett is called 9/11 Trillions. He's like, we can argue all day about why it happened, how it happened, but the best way, and this is a well-known saying, right? Cui bono, what? Follow the money. Who benefits?
Cui bono, who benefits?
Cui bono, who benefits, right? And that's what this documentary is. It's really great, called 9/11 Trillions. I mean, what? Should I randomly choose what he's? It's really hard to.
The guy who had the lease on the building took out a huge
he's right there. Oh, damn
insurance policy 2 days before 9/11 happened and made billions off of it.
Silverstein, there he is right there. So he's one of the first ones, I guess, in the documentary.
Here, individual real estate investors. Silverstein Properties only put down $14 million of its own money. The deal was unusual in a variety of ways. Although the Port Authority carried only $1.5 billion of insurance coverage on the WTC complex, which earlier that year had been valued at $1.2 billion, Silverstein had insisted on doubling that amount, insuring the buildings for $3.55 billion. Silverstein's insurance broker struggled to put that much coverage in place and ultimately had to split it among 25 dealers. The negotiations were so involved that only temporary contracts were in place for the insurance at the time the lease was signed, and by September the contracts were still being finalized. Silverstein's group was also explicitly given the right to rebuild the structures if they were destroyed, and even to expand the amount of retail space on the site if rebuilding did take place. Within hours of the destruction of the Twin Towers on September 11th, Silverstein was on the phone to his lawyers, trying to determine if his insurance policies could construe the attacks as two separate insurable incidents rather than one. Silverstein spent years in the courts attempting to win $7.1 billion from his $3.55 billion insurance policy, and in 2007 walked away with $4.55 billion, the largest single insurance settlement ever.
Largest insurance settlement ever. $4.5 billion.
Can you imagine you watch these three buildings collapse, and you're on the phone with your lawyers negotiating to make more money because two planes hit instead of one? I mean, good God, these people are evil.
So evil. And I remember there's a clip of him. He's giving a presentation to Silverstein, and he's saying that how he won in court, right? But they couldn't collect. The insurance companies are like, screw that, we're not paying. He calls the governor of New York. I forget which one it was, Pataki or something. Maybe not. It was anyway.
I have no recollection.
He forced the insurance companies to pay him. So it's a complete like a mob. The way they act, you know,
it really
was like terrorists. And why are they so just worried about the money anyway? So much involved with this, so much, and so many documentaries. Corbett has a quick one of the dancing Israelis. You've heard of that, right?
I have. I've only ever heard of it because every video that explains this gets scrubbed from the internet super quick.
And that's the reason why we're on BitChute.
Yeah.
If you haven't noticed,
the dancing Israelis. Do you want to explain that video or sum it up really quick? And we can play the clip, but just because I think a lot of people don't know about the dancing Israelis.
No, and it's crazy because they say there was dancing Arabs, which is a complete deflection. You know that they use that a lot. If you say this online, you'll have a bunch of trolls and bot accounts that say no, those were Arabs, blah blah blah. But that's been really debunked because it was an older clip of Palestinians dancing or something for something else.
But the
dancing Israelis basically are 5 Israelis that were that witnesses saw setting up their cameras before the attacks, right? And then they were recording the attacks, and then they were witnessed dancing or giving high fives when the towers fell. And witnesses called in police. Police found them on some bridge. Immediately they said, these guys, like, we are not your enemy. No, we are not your problem. The Palestinians are your problem. You know, it made like, and the cops were like, okay, but you have weapons and bombs and money. We're taking you in anyway. So they got taken in and interrogated. They failed lie detector tests, and then of course they pull strings to get them deported. And who is it? Michael Chertoff, you know, who was the first head of the DHS. This is before DHS was formed. That Epstein lawyer, what's his name? He came in and he got them deported to Israel with no charges. Dershowitz. Dershowitz was one of the lawyers too that came in and got them released. But yeah, but this came out because there was FBI documents that were FOIA'd and that were due to be released, and they released the files, and that's when this video came out. So we can press play. What do you think? Should we press play?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Okay.
Some evil is just, it can't be explained.
Are these people happy? Are they joyous now? Are they celebrating?
Oh, absolutely. They're
Thank
celebrating.
God.
There's one report. This has not been confirmed, but there's several reports that there was a cell, one of these cells across the Hudson River, and they got on this is the report. I emphasize, I don't know this for a fact, but there's several witnesses who say this happened. They got on the roof of the building to look across. They knew what was going to happen. Yeah. They were waiting for it to happen, and when it happened, they celebrated. They jumped for joy.
In the days after 9/11, while Ground Zero continued to smolder, millions heard Dan Rather and various media outlets repeat vague and unconfirmed reports of arrests that took place that day. These rumors held that Middle Eastern men, presumably Arabs, were arrested in explosive-packed vans in various places around the city on September 11th, and that some had even been photographing and celebrating those events. What most do not realize is that those reports were not mere rumors. and we now have thousands of pages of FBI, CIA, and DOJ reports documenting those arrests.
My binoculars, and I could see the towers from my window, and this is where I'm looking, and all of a sudden down there I see this van parked, and I see 3 guys on top of the van, and I could see that they were like happy, they didn't look shocked to me, they didn't look shocked.
The men were spotted shortly after 8:46 a.m., yet somehow at this early stage, just minutes after the first plane strike on the World Trade Center, they were already positioned in a parking lot in Liberty State Park, taking pictures of the towers and celebrating. They left the scene shortly after being spotted, and at 3:31 p.m. the FBI issued an all-points bulletin advising officers in the greater New York area to be on the lookout for a white 2000 Chevrolet van with Urban Moving Systems sign on back. At 3:56 p.m., the van was spotted traveling eastward on State Route 3 in New Jersey and pulled over by Officer Scott DiCarlo and Sergeant Dennis Ravelli of the East Rutherford Police Department. Inside they found 5 men: Sivan Kurzberg and his brother Paul, Yaron Schmel, Odette Elner, and Omar Marmari.
A major terrorist manhunt began, and just 6 hours after the attack, the van was stopped at a roadblock by patrolman Scott DiCarlo.
We were asked to detain the van and the passengers. They were just removed from the vehicle, patted down for safety precaution, and detained.
911 call at 410 Park.
I think once the FBI arrived, one of them stated that they were on our side. There's something to that effect.
According to the police report of the incident, Sivan Kurzberg told Officer DiCarlo, "We are Israeli. We are not your problem. Your problems are our problems. The Palestinians are the problem."
Of course they're gonna say that. So they give it away, when these things happen. Like these are small but very important quotes, because it happens right at when this is happening, right? And what the agenda is, you can tell.
Yeah, absolutely. It's scary, man, and we're still in bed with these people. That's what makes me the most frustrated.
Yeah, and I mean the whole
how long are we gonna let I'm not calling for violence. How long are we going to let Israel get away with all the shit that they do?
I mean, it's a complicated issue, right?
It's definitely complicated, but it's just
very complicated.
It's so frustrated that we're so close, with this country.
We're so intertwined with them,
Yeah.
and like married to them. Like it's just, and they've done that over the years. I think 9/11 was one of the ones. I mean, there's a lot of things, but I think 9/11 was the really big one that binded both countries.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely feels that way. I mean,
Yeah.
something. 9/11 is obviously a super complicated issue, but I think it's
Very.
even more complicated than anyone can imagine. I mean, you and I have talked about this, outside of the podcast, but I don't know. None of it adds up to what the world is today. You know what I mean?
It doesn't add up, and and I just want to say, like, an ideology is not a race. Okay, people that are Zionists are seen. There's even Arab Zionists. There's Lebanese Zionists. Okay, that believe that Jews should rule Palestine and even that area that they historically have. So we're not against any race. We're not racist, obviously,
right?
But it's an ideology, and it's obviously powerful,
and
it's obviously influential.
We've said this on the show before. We don't dislike Jewish people. It's not about being against Jewish people, but the Israeli government and the American government
yeah,
are purely evil.
I mean, there's the Zionism. Even Masons, Freemasons, who started this country, are essentially Zionists. It's in their ideology, right? They talk about Solomon's Temple. They talk about, so this is nothing crazy. These are facts. We're not making this stuff up, and we're not anti anyone. We can be anti ideologies, right? We can be anti-communist. We can be anti-Bolshevik. We can be I can be anti-Zionist without being racist, because it has nothing to do with race.
I'm anti-Hollywoodist.
Right, but it can even go back to there, right, with predictive programming.
Yeah.
This is another long documentary. It's called 9/11, Israel's Great Game.
It's a good documentary, though.
Yeah, there's architects for engineers. If you just want to go through the technical part of 9/11, of basically the story that's been told to us, that these are just fires and it melted steel and just collapsed, right? So these are engineers and scientists that go, wait a minute, no, that's not how it works,
right?
So is an organization called Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. They have great documentaries too. We can play a quick clip.
Yeah, let's play a quick clip.
Quick clip.
It's hard to say.
Fire protection, metallurgy, as well as physicists, explosives experts, and demolition technicians.
If we believe that fires brought down the World Trade Center buildings on 9/11, this is extremely troubling for those of us in the design professions, architects and engineers, even physicists.
Buildings just don't behave like that. There was no hesitation. There was no hesitation when it was to hit story after story.
The tops of the buildings were basically disintegrated.
The fact that it was all reduced to rubble and powder just did not make sense at all.
Our whole society is being led to believe that these fundamental laws of physics, hard science, don't apply anymore. And that's, I think that should frighten all of us.
Also, psychologists, therapists, and counselors, along with theologian David Ray Griffin, who have a deep understanding of the personal issues associated with 9/11, will explain why it is so difficult for us to come to terms with the reality of these events and learn
of an intact building. I mean, that's what I call a smoking gun.
Yeah, and that was WTC 7, right?
Like Lupe Fiasco says, Building 7, did they really pull it?
Pull it, yes. And that's Silverstein saying that on PBS, saying we just made a decision to pull it. Like, what does that mean? Pull it. You know exactly
have you seen? I think it's BBC. The newscaster is talking about. She's talking about Building 7 collapsing before it even collapsed. You've seen
yeah, that's
that,
right.
Yeah,
like 15 minutes before it collapses, she was there.
Yeah, and she was talking about how Building 7 collapsed. I mean, there's a lot of. It's crazy that we're only. I mean, if we had started this podcast 20 years ago, we'd be labeled, terrorists, and they'd come black bag us. But we're finally able to talk about it now. But Building 7 is just the weirdest thing in my mind. I mean, what's the official explanation on how it collapsed? It wasn't hit by a plane.
Office fires. Yeah.
Started by the buildings next to it that were on fire.
Yeah, exactly. When they collapsed, that they launched some stuff that had fire on them, so then it caught fire and then it collapsed.
That doesn't make it.
No, of course not. It's a smoking gun, WT7, because they're like, well, here, wait, let's listen to Alan Sobrowski,
okay,
who was in the War College. He's Jewish, by the way, and he used to teach at the War College, our United States War College. He said this. I don't know when he said this.
What we need to stand up and say is not only did they attack the U.S.'s liberty, they did 9/11. They did it. I have had long conversations over the past 2 weeks with contacts at the Army War College, at headquarters Marine Corps, and I've made it absolutely clear in both cases that it is 100% certain that 9/11 was a Mossad operation. Period. First, the disbelief, and what I show them immediately afterwards is an interview with a demolitions expert named Danny Jawenko, and it shows the third building at the World Trade Center going down. And they look at that, and I said, now you understand that if one of the buildings was wired for demolition, all of them were wired for demolition.
Right, so he's talking about WTC 7 there.
Yeah, and I've heard that they found explosives like in the, well, I don't know if they.
Or heard.
I'm probably misremembering. Either it was built with explosives in the thing, or they found.
Yeah, there's that too. Yes,
Yeah.
that it was when they were first built that there were already explosives were already in there in the 60s, which is crazy to think about.
That's true conspiracy theory. I have
That's
no
like-
idea if that's
yeah.
true or
Right.
not, but that's something. That's one of the theories that's out there.
And that's it. That's the tipping point. Getting into arguments about who was flying what and where they were and whether there was nanothermite. Those things are true, but they're incidental. The thing that's necessary is to tell people 3 buildings went down. The 3rd was not hit by a plane. It was wired for controlled demolition. Therefore, all of them were wired for controlled demolition. And at that point, the reaction is rage. First disbelief and then rage. 9/11 has led directly to 60,000 Americans dead and wounded. God knows how many hundreds of thousands of people in other countries that we've killed or wounded or made homeless. This is an open wound. And what Americans need to understand is they did it. They did it. And if they do understand that, Israel's going to disappear. Israel will flat ass disappear from this earth. I sent a film to one of my colleagues, and it basically had Americans grieving over their dead coming back. And I showed one of them. It was a woman just wrenched by grief, over her dead soldier. And I said, if Americans ever know that Israel did this, they're going to scrub them off the earth, and they're not going to give a rat's ass what the cost is. They are not going to care. The first thing, Mark, is astonishment. They didn't know. They truly didn't know. And these are not unintelligent people. They really didn't know. And the next statement is rage. Real rage. The Zionists are playing this as truly an all or nothing exercise. Because if they lose this one, if the American people ever realize what happened, they're done. The military has not been bought. The military is loyal, but it has not been bought. And
well, I'm going to say this. I think, and this is an old clip. I think the American people have found out, and a lot of the population has, and that's the new domestic terrorism war you're seeing. White Christian Americans have found this out, and now they're the new enemy. And now the tools that they've been given, to fight Al Qaeda and Islamic terrorism has been turned against patriotic Americans. And from my point of view, I can see this differently because I was a target back then when 9/11 happened to random searches all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was hell. It really was, and it gave me anxiety, and it was the beginning of a lot of anxiety or mental issues because of that. And everywhere I went, even as an American, didn't matter. Even if I went to Canada, they treat me like I was a terrorist, right? Because, I really don't look it, so I get a smile.
Oh, I think I just lost you again. But I can totally, I know you're not listening to me. I know you can't hear me. But it's shitty. We were so patriotic right after 9/11. The government could do no wrong. That was the whole point. I'm going to wait for you to come back before I talk anymore. I basically just have a bunch of setups and no punchline. And I'm just looking at stuff around.
Yeah, you're still there.
Oh, good. I was practicing my stand-up. It wasn't going very well. I just got crickets.
You should have those soundboards with what sucks. I was sharing my experiences like being after 9/11.
Yeah,
saying like how I was being treated back then, and how I would walk up because I don't look. I can and I can't look Arab, but I would walk up. I'd get a smile from the passport people. Because I just don't look like a typical anyway. But once they see my name, they're like, "Oh, now we've caught you," kind of thing. And
see, I lucked out. I've got the light skin and I've got the last name that's not Arab, Actually, I had a doctor once. He told me he thought I was Jewish instead of Palestinian.
Yeah, because the hair. I mean,
because of the hair.
Yeah. Of course. When I used to go to, I used to visit Israel like for business, and I used to be in the meetings. Like, you look Israeli, you know. Like, well, you know, we're cousins, aren't we? But still, I mean, it just sucks because I see this from that lens, all right, and I see these tools now being used against Americans and patriots and for waking up, and they're saying that now they're racist. It's crazy to watch. It really is crazy to watch. Like some child's been caught and is acting like a child too. You know.
Well, I remember the Sikhs had a whole lot of trouble after 9/11.
Yes, they did. Yeah, because everyone thought they were Muslim or something, right?
Yeah. I mean, I remember even after there was what's that movie? Inside Man. Have you seen that?
No.
It's got Denzel in it. And it's got, I can't remember his name. He's a white guy. It's about robbing a bank essentially. And there's a character in it that gets detained because he's a Sikh and they think he's Muslim.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I mean, they actually bring it up. It's pretty cool. And
well, that even happened with friends back then when we'd go into like like white friends of mine, right? I'd go into like a store or something, and the owner would be Indian, and you know, my friend, quote unquote friend, like, oh, he's from, you know, I'm not gonna say the country, he's from whatever, and we'd both look at each other and like do an eye roll. I'm like, I'm sorry, man, he has no idea, you know.
Oh man,
so stupid, dude. A lot of people did that. It wasn't just like one or two, like a lot. You know, but it just shows the innocence of Americans, like white Americans, like, you know, it's
it shows how brainwashed people that live here are.
Yeah.
I mean, how long did it take for people to be okay with non-white people after 9/11?
Oh, a long time. Well, I'll give you another example. I'll give you an example. So I went to university before 9/11, all that, right? And people were always interested. Oh, that's cool, man. Where are you from? All that stuff, right? Even like going out, yeah, that's cool. After 9/11, like if I said like, you know, where you know my heritage is from, it'd be like about face and they'd leave. Like, I'm not joking. Like, that's how bad it was after that. You know, it's powerful. The media's powerful. The government's powerful, and I guess the one thing it did is that it united the country.
It certainly did. Well,
and it gave us forever wars, right?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I do think it's kind of it's only taken 20 years, but it's turning around.
Yeah.
People are starting to realize that, you know, not all Arab people are terrorists and all that stuff.
Right. And there, what's annoying is also, because watching it from my lens, is that there was a much larger, not just Jewish community, but Christian community in the Arab lands, you know. And I don't know if we played this last week or it was something else that I saw. Maybe it was something else that I saw. But what the forever wars of after 9/11 did is they pushed a lot of Christians out of these lands. Iraq had a huge Christian population. I think there's 0 now after what we did there, you know. And that has to go with many of those countries. Like Syria still has a little one, you know, Jordan, Lebanon, obviously are half, you know. But a lot of them have left after these wars and, like, you know, trying to fit this myth into reality, which it wasn't, which it's not. Anyway, whoever did it took advantage of it, used our military to help them out, destroy Iraq, Libya, Syria. Right? There's that famous clip of General Wesley Clark saying that. Also, when he went to the Pentagon, they told him that. I wish I could just pull it up now. If our listeners don't know about it, look it up.
I can cut out some of the spare time. If you want to pull it up, I can cut out the searching part.
Yeah. So let's see here. There's Wesley Clark, 7 countries, he said, and this was right after 9/11. Wesley, he hates that he got caught saying that because someone found him on the streets and asked him about it.
Oh,
Wesley
geez.
Clark, here it is, 7 countries video. Here we go. So famous clip. It's on Democracy Now! Even imagine that.
Yeah.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who had used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second. I said, well, you're too busy. He said, no. He says, we've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq. This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, we're going to
20th of September. So you're talking about 9 days later, they're going to Iraq.
Which still makes no sense.
Of course not. Yeah.
Keep playing it.
Why? He said, I don't know. He said, I guess they don't know what else to do. So I said, well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda? He said, no. He says, there's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq. He said, I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments. And he said, I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail. So I came back to see him a few weeks later. And by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper. He said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today. And he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran. I said, is it classified?
Finishing off Iran. We're not there yet, but
it's taken longer. It's taken longer than 5 years, but hell,
yeah. It's the crown jewel for them.
Mm-hmm.
He said, yes, sir. I said, well, don't show it to me. And I saw him a year or so ago, and I said, you remember that? He said, sir, I didn't show you that memo. I didn't show it to you.
I'm sorry. What did you say his name was?
I'm not going to give you his name.
So go through the countries again.
Well, starting with Iraq, then Syria and Lebanon, then Libya, then Somalia and Sudan, and then back to Iran. So,
yeah, that it's not American. Those are America's problems, I think, or America's enemies. Yes,
it's just it's colonialism in a more violent fashion.
Yeah,
I don't think we ever got to Somalia, did we?
Somalia. Isn't there a movie about the Somalia one? We definitely did Sudan. We definitely did Libya, Syria.
Somalia is still like pirate capital of the world.
Oh, well,
I think I'm talking out of my ass here, which is ironic because I have no pants on. Oh wait, no, it's not ironic.
Well, I mean, you are on a podcast. You don't need any pants on.
I know, it's great, and we don't share our videos. All right, so what do you got here?
We don't have to go through this, but we'll put it as a link for our listeners to look at it. Now, the notorious banned Fox 9/11 2001 news footage, Israeli Mossad links. Great clip. He reveals a lot, actually, and you can't find this on Fox News anymore. Here, let's just quickly.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to listen to. That's Fox News,
It has been more than 16 years since a civilian working for the Navy was charged with passing secrets to Israel. Jonathan Pollard pled guilty to conspiracy to commit espionage and is serving a life sentence. At first, Israeli leaders claimed Pollard was part of a rogue operation, but later took responsibility for his work. Now, Fox News has learned some U.S. investigators believe that there are Israelis again very much engaged in spying in and on the U.S. They have known things they didn't tell us before September 11th. Fox News correspondent Carl Cameron has details in the first of a 4-part series.
Since September 11th, more than 60 Israelis have been arrested or detained, either under the new Patriot anti-terrorism law or for immigration violations. A handful of active Israeli military were among those detained, according to investigators, who say some of the detainees also failed polygraph questions when asked about alleged surveillance activities against and in the United States. There is no indication that the Israelis were involved in the 9/11 attacks, but investigators suspect that the Israelis may have gathered intelligence about the attacks in advance and not shared it. A highly placed investigator said there are, quote, tie-ins, but when asked for details, he flatly refused to describe them, saying, quote, evidence linking these Israelis to 9/11 is classified. I cannot tell you about evidence that has been gathered. It's classified information. Fox News has learned that one group of Israelis spotted in North Carolina recently is suspected of keeping an apartment in California to spy on a group of Arabs who the United States is also investigating for links to terrorism. Numerous classified documents obtained by Fox News indicate that even prior to September 11th, as many as 140 other Israelis had been detained or arrested in a secretive and sprawling investigation into suspected espionage by Israelis in the United States. Investigators from numerous government agencies are part of a working group that's been compiling evidence since the mid-90s. These documents detail hundreds of incidents in cities and towns across the country that investigators say, quote, may well be an organized intelligence gathering activity. The first part of the investigation focuses on Israelis who say they are art students from the University of Jerusalem and Bezalel Academy. They repeatedly made contact with U.S. government personnel, the report says, by saying they wanted to sell cheap art or handiwork. Documents say they, quote, targeted and penetrated military bases, the DEA, FBI, and dozens of other government facilities, and even secret offices and unlisted private homes of law enforcement and intelligence personnel. The majority of those questioned, quote, stated they served in military intelligence, electronic surveillance intercept, and or explosive ordnance units. Another part of the investigation has resulted in the detention and arrests of dozens of Israelis at American Mall kiosks, where they've been selling toys called Puzzle Car.
Do you remember those guys?
So
I do.
I have two statements.
Yes.
First one is, duh. Of course, the Israelis are spying on us.
Of course.
The second one is, do you think it's kind of ironic that they're posing as art students because Hitler was trying to be an art student?
Oh, I never even thought of that. That's hilarious. Like they're signaling to each other. That's so fun. But do you know that there was an also Israeli art students, or that maybe that same thing, were on that same I got hit? The exact same floor.
I did not know that. Yeah, I mean, I
forget that name now.
One of the things I see on the conspiracy subreddit, and I see the sentiment online a lot, is that the elites and the people who are in charge like to screw with us, and so they do all these things that are super obvious because they know we won't figure it out.
Yeah, it's got to be exactly. It's got to be super obvious, but they do signal to each other. Now, I don't think it's one country like these people are saying. Even these documentaries, Israel. I think it's an ideology. Okay, I think it's Zionism.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It has to be factions within the United States because it used technology that was unheard of even today. All right, and had to know that there were 20 exercises going on simulating many things, including that, at the same day that would distract our Air Force.
Yeah, let's dig into that a little bit.
Yeah, so apparently that day there was like 20 different military exercises happening right on 9/11. Yeah, and there was a couple that were actually simulating hijackers taking planes and slamming them against the towers. So when these things are happening, there are simulated even simulated blips on radar screens. So even radar operators, and there's transcripts of this, they would ask, like, is this real, or is this live, or is this a simulation? And that was part of the problem on 9/11, and that's why we couldn't scramble anything, because our jets were busy simulating or in training and couldn't figure out which was real and what was not real. And I'm sorry. Yes, they're influential. They don't have access to that, but they have influence within our government and military who have access to that information, right? So we must be clear about who was part of this. It was a multi-faction thing, obviously.
But I mean, the day was so coordinated that it wasn't just some random Arabs in the Middle East that hijacked some planes. And hopefully today we get to talking about the quote unquote hijackers, because they were terrible pilots.
They were terrible pilots. Yeah. Yeah, I think, and even in that Corvette one where he talks about in 5 minutes, he says that they were able to make maneuvers when they couldn't even land these planes, but they were able to make maneuvers that experienced pilots said were impossible to make. But there are other theories out there. There's directed energy weapons theory. There's nuke theories. Here's Dr. Judy Wood, who is the
remind me to talk about the Pentagon later. Let's play a clip though.
I do want to play this from Dr. Judy Wood. People say she's just a disinformation artist, but all she did was examine the evidence. She didn't start with a theory, right? She examined the evidence, and from the evidence extrapolated that this must have been some technology we don't know, we're not privy to know about, especially even now, which is weird. Although we see it, people will say they'll link it to other things, but here.
See that you can eliminate about every kind of kinetic energy weapon. And we know this technology exists. The whole world saw it, even though they were told they saw something else. They saw what happened. And this indeed is a technology that can be used for free energy. It doesn't need to be used for evil purposes.
We have the same parallels with UFOs, by the way, right? And the UFO technology and reverse engineering. That technology could be used for good, not just bad. And people have linked this. What?
The way I think this relates, it doesn't really relate to UFOs, but I'm just saying we've recently, figured out that our government has lied about UFOs. So, what else aren't they telling us the truth about? And I think 9/11 is a great example of something else that they're lying about. And
my problem,
there's so little proof that 9/11 happened the way it happened. I mean, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here, but they found unburned passports down the street from where the planes crashed. That makes no sense.
Right, but they can't find the recorders, right? The black boxes, but
right,
black
box doesn't exist. I mean, so how many of the hijackers were from Saudi Arabia? And 19. Did we ever invade them? No, we went to countries that were completely unrelated.
Right.
All the Osama bin Laden clips that were him supposedly taking credit for the attacks, they don't line up with how he looks and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he never took credit either. Like officially,
did he not? I thought he took credit, but
no, officially he never did. He's like no, and he probably would have loved to. He took credit for many things
and
before that.
Like a video that we played earlier in the show. It's so true. I mean, supposedly he was killed. No video footage. We threw him off the side of a boat. No video footage, and of course we didn't bring the body back to verify.
No,
the people, the Army or Marines or whoever the hell it was that killed them, all died like a month later.
So
I mean, it's just such all obvious bullshit.
Yeah. For people who are looking and seeing. For people who are asleep, which I guess is, I'm not going to say it's the majority of the population anymore after COVID. I think COVID opened their eyes. But before that, I would say like 85% of people were just sleepwalking, And this even opens your eyes more. Like her research into like what did this. I'm on the side of, I don't know if it's a nuke yet from underneath or a DW from above. Okay, but something dustified the towers. They went poof, poof, like that. There's no rubble. There's no pancake effect. Those things were so powerful. Like the foundation itself was just insanely strong, with with multiple steel columns in the middle. Like forget just the steel as on the outside. The steel columns on the inside were so strong, right? But they were gone, completely dustified. So here's Dr. Wood. I mean, so I don't know which it was. Either
nothing adds up in this from like 2001 to now. Nothing adds up.
It's so weird.
Oh, also, I forgot to mention weapons of mass destruction. Do you remember that phrase?
No, yes.
Hearing it over and over again, and nothing was ever found. And now they're doing it again. They're saying Iran has nuclear weapons.
Oh, they've been saying that forever, right? Decades now. Oh, tomorrow they're going to have it. Next year they're going to have it. And they still don't.
And people just, I don't know. They eat it up. I don't get it.
I blame Hollywood. Hollywood's got much better now with that, but from Hollywood from the 60s or even before until all the way into the 2000s, brainwashed people that Arabs and Muslims, or just that those people in general are terrorists and violent people.
It's not even about race or where they're at. It's just like I don't understand why people watch the news and after all the stuff that they've clearly lied about and been caught lying about. I don't know why they still believe it. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I've got members in my family who watch Fox News, and I don't understand why. It's not even news. It's entertainment. It's like fear porn.
Well, it's better than the left stuff. I guess that's why. It's almost there, but it's still in the Overton window. Like, oh, just stay right here.
I can't understand why people would ever trust our government or the news because it's the same. That's one and the same thing.
It is one and the same thing.
Or believe that the CIA, FBI. I mean, how many more dogs have to get killed by the FBI or the ATF or whatever for people to keep trusting them? I mean, I just don't understand.
It might be something with human psychology, and they know that.
Like I've been reading stories. I read a story. It happened years ago. At this point, I think it was when I was in college. But the ATF broke into some person's house, the wrong house, by the way, threw a flashbang into a crib, and permanently disabled a child. Why do we trust these people? They're idiots.
They are idiots. And that happens a lot, by the way.
They get away with all their mistakes.
Yeah, it's kind of it depends what mistake though, and what race they're going against.
Right. Yeah.
Right. If it's another white person, then that's going to happen.
Yeah. Jesus.
What I mean? It's just such a mess. It's such a mess.
It really is.
I've been all from 9/11. Really, the distrust and not the schism. It's like a schizophrenia that's going on, or that happened in the country. Obviously, if you're told something that's not true and told to believe in it, it's going to cause some mental issues. So this is a great documentary too about the directed energy weapon.
You gotta share your screen, by the way.
Oh, it's not on here?
No, I'm just looking at your little avatar and mine and our nicknames and that sweet ticker at the bottom. There we go.
Sorry. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, this is another documentary about the DEW, but it goes through a lot of stuff. I think you'd love this one because it goes through the contractors, basically, that they were involved in covering this up because that's who our government outsources to. And it's basically saying that it was these contractors that we watch, you and I, on the podcast, basically, these same ones who did this. Not saying that as a country or whatever. It's saying that these corporations did it and covered it up. But then you look at who owns those corporations and you're back to the same thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
This is a great one. I highly recommend watching this one.
What the hell was that?
There's that dreadful word alchemy, which we mustn't use, but it was a form of that in a way. It was creating new metals, you see.
Some of us need to wake up. I'm awake, rise and shine. I ain't got time to waste. My mind is straight, the design is great.
Can you skip the music video part?
12% of the original building.
And will persist.
Some would argue this was more of a warning that we chose to ignore. We've all heard of foreknowledge in the Bush administration. But Eisenhower told us exactly who would do it.
The military-industrial complex.
Now, with a real forensic study of the evidence, we can all find out exactly what happened that day. And we can find some of the people responsible, considering they're still profiting from it 17 years later. I'm traveling to North Texas to make this documentary. I'll be exposing the truth movement for what they really are while interviewing researchers and traveling to Denison, Texas.
I think we should skip this.
Where the father of
so little rubble is that all of it simply fell down into the ground and was pulverized, evaporated.
No, George. The reason there's so little rubble is it simply went up into the air and was inhaled.
I think we should just link this in the show notes. I don't like this for the show.
Oh, okay.
I just don't think it works in podcast format.
Oh, got it. We are on video though, by the way.
Oh yeah, shoot. I forgot about that. I forgot we're putting this on YouTube. Hi YouTube. So good to see
exactly.
you guys.
Don't forget they're watching us a lot too.
Oh god. They're gonna see my really bad stand-up.
Everybody.
A huge amount of paper and powdered concrete or powdered whatever it was.
Powdered building.
Powdered building.
And everything in it.
That was covering Manhattan.
Converting much of the building's material into huge dust clouds of particles requires a large amount of energy. Much more energy than you could get from jet fuel or bombs, let alone a structural collapse. The truth is, an advanced weapon was used to destroy all 7 buildings that day. 9/11 was pulled off using black budget technologies. Secret weapons, so to speak.
Anything that can do what was done is classified technology. It has the ability to direct energy in such a way to disrupt the molecular bonds. If we put our heads in the sand and ignore the fact that that technology exists, you can guarantee it's going to be used again and again and again. This was a demonstration in front of the entire planet of this technology. And it is a horrendous technology that can destroy the planet. But that technology doesn't have to do what was done. It can do good things. Nikola Tesla wanted to give free energy to the world. He was afraid it might be used for evil purposes.
This technology did, in fact, fall into enemy hands, and it was used on September 11th, 2001.
That means we can use it for good without worrying about that risk because it's already happened.
So I won't have enough time in this film to prove this to you, but you can prove it yourself just by studying the facts.
We'll link up her book to Dr. Judy Wood and that documentary. It is a great documentary because he goes through what we see too about these contractors. And if the contractors are investigating what they did, they're obviously going to cover it up. It's a good documentary. Yeah. This is a small clip about, it's called 9/11 experiments, just basically science about the collapse.
Well, let's give it a listen.
On what caused the complete destruction of the towers does not exist. Within more than 10,000 pages filled with technical data of relative importance, in a footnote on page 82 of the NIST report, we read, the focus of the investigation was on the sequence of events from the instant of aircraft impact to the initiation of collapse for each tower. For brevity of this report, the sequence is referred to as the probable collapse sequence, although it does not actually include the structural behavior of the tower after the conditions for collapse initiation were reached and collapse became inevitable. With the simple word inevitable, NIST purports to have explained the total destruction of 80,000 tons of a perfectly healthy steel structure upon itself.
The next 3 experiments are real-world examples intended to see if, indeed, as NIST simply assumed, a collapse would be inevitable. Will the collapse of these structures continue to accelerate? And is collapse really inevitable? Based on these 3 real-world examples, an accelerated, straight-down collapse of the structures certainly is not inevitable.
The area below the damage zone where the planes flew in and where the fire was, that area below that, those 80 or 90 stories, 80,000 tons of structural steel was not damaged in any way. yet you stood there and watched it destroy itself, wiping out floor by floor all 287 structural columns as if they didn't exist underneath the damage zone.
When a well-known debunking website wrote to NIST asking for a clarification on the sequence of the collapses, it received a similar answer. NIST did not describe the specific sequence of events after global collapse initiated. This astonishing statement has been repeated by NIST over and over again under the most surprising of justifications.
Once the collapse initiated, the video evidence is rather clear. It was not stopped by the floors below, so there was no calculation that we did to demonstrate that, what is clear from the videos.
Oh man.
So I wanna play devil's advocate here.
Yes.
So the experiments that they did, it seems like they blew up those buildings from the bottom, and obviously the towers, when they fell, were not blown up from the bottom, they were blown up from the top. And the Twin Towers, I mean, do you know what year they were built? They were old.
60s, 67, I think, something like that.
And they were hit from the top. I mean, the way they collapse is, my belief, the way they collapse is weird, but I don't think it's that weird. They get hit from the top.
Yeah.
The steel beams that held the tower up are, and I've watched YouTube videos and demonstrations. While that heat cannot melt the beams, it weakens them. And so the fact that it falls straight down is not all that weird to me.
It's never happened ever before.
I don't know.
Ever. Only that day.
I don't know.
That's truth. That's fact. It's never happened ever before to a steel structure building.
Right, but I mean, how many experiments do we have of a giant plane flying into a building that tall?
I think TLC did something too.
There's not a lot of like comparisons, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, then Empire State Building had a Boeing crash into it.
Well,
40s, and a fire went. Nothing happened. There's that fire in Spain too. Same type of building. The fire went out for like, I don't know, for all night.
I just think if something is collapsing from the top, I don't find it that far-fetched that it would have collapsed that way.
Explained in the official investigations, like the smooth downward motion of the upper floors in the towers, and all the outward motions. Acceleration and the net force are proportional in accordance with Newton's laws. And while the force may be invisible, the acceleration is not. If there's no acceleration, we say there's no net force,
Saudis, that's hilarious.
even though there can still be motion.
I've seen so much. Just real quick, I've seen so many videos of Saudis and all that's driving on the side.
That stuff is so funny, man.
Acceleration is always in line with the direction of the applied force. We can also determine the sequence of applied forces, that is, which force must have come first to cause the motions observed. And even totally different objects that move in a similar path will also have the same direction of net force. So any objects that have similar accelerations will have the same direction and the same sequence of net force, and is independent of scale. Mathematical equations were developed to explain some of the basic motions in nature. Later, computer simulations, which are based on mathematics, were developed. But sometimes, if the equations are not applied right, it can result in wrong conclusions. Or, as Tesla said, today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments, and they wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality. And very small changes in the input parameters of computer models can have very different results. So any theory or simulation must be compared to experiment, which is central to the scientific method. Richard Feynman taught this.
If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. And that simple statement is the key to science. It doesn't make a difference how beautiful your guess is. It doesn't make a difference how smart you are, who made the guess, or what his name is. If it disagrees with experiment, wrong. That's all there is to it.
And so, computer simulations must be constantly refined and allowed to run long enough until it matches reality. There are some very good simulations and some really bad simulations because they don't run long enough, and of course, they don't match reality.
Which led to a single column, one column that had a large unsupported length. And that one column, the critical column, buckled.
But when asked, how could he be so sure the Building 7 model was accurate?
And to use a very complicated computer model for this, how can you be so sure that this is actually accurate what you want? It's a virtual proof, some might say.
Well, computer models these days are incredibly robust. We actually design 1,000-foot, 2,000-foot buildings today purely based on computer models. We design airplanes that fly with computer models. We certainly can do failure analysis using computer models.
Well, we know what computer models can be used for, but that doesn't mean they're accurate. We use physical models all the time, and it's from those physical models and observations where the math and simulations are developed, never the other way around.
Right.
There were two primary theories that were promoted: the pancake collapse and the pile driver collapse. Both rely on gravity to be the driving force for the two motions. In other words, the force and motions were down then out. Let's conduct some experiments to verify this. But first, we need to understand some basics about building design. There are two fundamental parameters of structural design. The first, of course, is strength. Obviously, each component must be able to hold the dead load plus the live load plus a significant factor of safety. And the second is what's called serviceability. The structure must, the pancake, to test this, plank span is 19. I built it first on the floors that met.
I understand. Our listeners can go and watch the video.
So to test the theory, hopefully confirm.
I'm worried that if we play these clips too long, it'll get too boring for our audience.
All right, so we're done with 9/11.
Already?
Thanks. Yeah, it's been an
hour
now.
All right, so I've got one thing to say and I've got one question to ask you. So even after watching all of these, I still believe the Twin Towers collapsed naturally. I do think Building 7 was pulled. I do think all of this was created
naturally, huh?
I do.
So there was justified naturally. Nothing left. No rubble.
There was definitely rubble. I mean, I remember watching all of the videos and
not as much as the material that was done, that was gone.
Yeah, well, I think if it was something,
I think that has to do with you internally.
I think
that.
If something that big crashes that fast, I think it's gonna vaporize a lot of stuff. I do think
they're made out of aluminum, right? Those planes. Steel structure can just rip through those.
We could get into a long, boring argument about it for the next hour and a half.
That's not boring.
No, I'm just saying that's my. Even after watching all those videos, I still think that's.
But you didn't. You watched 2 minutes from each documentary.
I know, and then I got.
Yeah, you should go through and watch those documentaries, though.
But I still think Building 7 was pulled, as Lupe Fiasco says. I do.
And like Stabrowski says, if one of them was pulled, all of them were pulled.
Very true. Oh, okay. Now I'm twisted up a little bit. I definitely don't think this was a terrorist attack. I think it was a, what do they call it?
False flag.
A false flag operation for the excuse to go to the Middle East.
Yeah. I mean,
I definitely do believe that.
Who made money out of it? It's the military industrial complex. It's a certain country.
It's the same people that make money off of everything in this country nowadays.
Yeah,
large corporations, politicians, and the elite.
Yeah.
My question for you was, where were you on 9/11? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, I was in Arlington, Virginia. I actually videotaped, and I was not usually up that early, and I was up even before it started, and which is weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I videotaped President Bush because I had a view of the Capitol or of the White House. And I videotaped his helicopter coming down after that, or like at 9 or 10 or something like that. And I remember calling my brothers too, and I was so brainwashed that was my first. The first thing out of my mouth was Bin Laden. Like that's how I was so brainwashed. Innocent. I watched TV all the time, movies, television series. But so if it was in my mind that came out like that,
wow,
it was easy. You know, I won't forget that.
I'll never forget that day either.
Where were you?
So it was. I woke up. And I knew I was late for school because I would like looked at my alarm clock. It was 7 something, and my mom always woke me up before that.
Yeah.
And I went downstairs, and she had the TV on, and she was just standing. She was not sitting and watching TV. My dad had already left for work, but she was standing, and she had her hand over her mouth. And I said, "Mom, I'm going to be late." And she just goes, "I think everyone's going to be late today. I think it's okay." Yeah. And then that whole day. My teacher had the TV. We didn't even do anything. We just watched TV all day. It was surreal, honestly.
Very surreal. Very surreal. It changed everything, you know? It really did. It changed
it certainly did. Look at the TSA now. Our
DHS, right?
The TSA, the best show in the business. They definitely know what they're doing. They don't steal or touch anyone weirdly.
Yeah, no, they don't. And I remember before TSA how cool it was, you know.
Yeah, you would just check your bags and get on the airplane.
15 minutes before. And you can go if you have people visiting, you can go straight to the gate and pick them up at the gate.
Oh,
no other country had that.
You'd bring your bottle of vodka, get right on the plane. I mean, it was fantastic.
But you know, Israel was a hellhole, their airport. And you have to be investigated and interrogated and pronged. And so it's like, you know, it's not fair. America's free. Let's, you know, make it. I don't know, man. It really annoyed me because I have a different lens because I've seen it from before TSA, before 9/11, and after that, and now. And to me, it's just obvious that something weird is going on just with the freedom of this country and trust me, it wasn't Arab Muslims that hated the freedom of this country. It was someone else.
Yeah. You know, it was the people in charge, I think, that hated the freedom of this country.
They always have. Yeah.
I remember. So, you know, at the airport, you have to take your shoes off.
Yeah.
And that's because there was a guy who put a bomb in his shoe.
Right. And couldn't ignite it or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, I think my dad told me this is that all of our government only reacts to stuff. They only react. They don't they don't take precautions beforehand.
Right.
They just react to things that have already happened. So there's not ever going to be another shoe bomber because you have to take your shoes off and
right.
You know, so they're going to miss the next. I remember the underwear bomber a few years ago.
Underwear bomber too. That's right.
And so now they've got these, those X-ray machines you have to stand in.
Oh, is that why the underwear bomber thing? But you know who made money off that? That's Chertoff, the first head of the DHS.
Yeah, shocker.
Yeah, big shocker, huh?
Hey, a rich guy made more money. Awesome.
Yeah, by influencing government.
Yeah.
But yeah, 9/11 in general just completely was the path to really the destruction of this country. I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Patriot Act was passed after that. NDAA after that. Spending money like insane money was after that. Spying. I mean, just
the Patriot Act is like one of the most evil things that's ever happened. And hey, guess what? Every president after Bush keeps letting it go.
Yeah, and we're still in an emergency, by the way.
Yeah,
and
just keep it going.
Because that's the hack. That is the hack against the Constitution is an emergency. After 9/11, emergency was declared, Patriot Act was passed, and every president since Bush has re-signed the emergency of 9/11. Imagine.
Yeah.
That's what and we got COVID. That's the present we got for that because that was another emergency.
And now they're coming after the Second Amendment, can't own guns. They're coming after the First Amendment. You're not allowed to say what you want.
Yeah.
It's a complete police state, and it all started with 9/11. That's why I think it was a staged event. The U.S. government got free reign to spend all this money in the military industrial complex. They got free reign to reduce the rights of citizens.
Yep.
I mean, it all started here. I
Yeah.
mean, it started before that, but this is where it really kicked off.
Yeah, I mean, the New World Order really started there, or the attempt for it. Well, COVID too was that too, but people keep fighting back, which is great. And if we want to continue with the UFO stuff for the show,
let's
from last week. Yeah,
let's lighten the mood and talk about some UFO stuff. I'd love.
Okay.
That. Now
Remember last week though,
I loved bad mood, and I'd love to talk about UFO stuff.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, me too. And I was glad that you shared, and we started the show with Richmond from north of Richmond.
Yeah,
I think that set a great mood for the show. But I also shared like some comedy that came from that, and this is Owen Benjamin, who I think is a complete genius, comedic genius.
The only problem was I couldn't tell if he was making fun of it or just like kind of adding on to it. Did I lose you again? Man, we got to work on your internet, bud. So I was at the DMV the other day, and you'll never believe this, but they said, "Hey, you got to get a new license, bud." And I was like, "Okay." See? No punchline. That's all just set up.
Hello?
Oh, he's back.
I'm on my mobile network.
Man, that sucks about your internet, huh?
Yeah. And look when it drops out, Perfect timing.
Yeah, well, it'll be easy to cut anyway, because it's just dead. Well, I tried some more stand-up. It didn't really go well. I might keep that in. Depending on what...
So which means that for YouTube, it's not going up then, because I'm not editing it. Editing videos is such a pain in the ass, and I'll tell you why. Regenerating them takes like 2 hours and so much computing power. So I'm not going to do that.
All right. Well,
so bye YouTube. Probably for a good reason. These things happen for a reason.
Yeah, the CIA is onto us.
Well, or whatever. It could be for a good reason too, that we don't get shut down or canceled off YouTube. So this is not going to be a YouTube episode, unfortunately.
A sign from a higher power.
Or whatever, yes. So wait, where did were we listening to Owen Benjamin? Is that why too?
Dude, it was so long ago. I watched a TV show, 16 YouTube videos, played video games for an hour and a half, and now you're back. So I don't remember where we were.
Played video games for an hour and a half? It hasn't been that long.
Yeah, it's been that long.
Don't mess with me, dude.
Sure felt that way. Anyway, should we just wrap it up, or do we want to play some UFO clips?
I mean, I really don't know. There was so much UFO stuff going on too.
Well, we could do it all. Oh, sorry, hold on.
No way, because then we'll increase our load again next week. Here, let's quickly do stuff.
Let's just breeze through some of these.
Your browser has blocked your screen.
Oh my God. It is always something. What's funny is I say that at work all the time because there's always something that goes wrong. And so I'll say it's always something. And now my coworkers have started to say it too.
It's always something.
It's always something.
It's true. It is true. Well, I'm going to skip because last week we talked about studies that were done about presidential candidates and their royalty genes and the ones with the most wins, but we'll skip over that because I don't want my internet to cut out. But here's Arrow. So these are some gems found or Easter eggs found on the site. So they have this. See this image right here?
That is bizarre. What is that?
So
we're
when
looking
you put
at
this
screenshots.
together,
we're looking at screenshots of the website, and in the corner of each web page, they've got something that adds up to a sphere. That is bizarre. Why would they do that? Just a fun little Easter egg for people like us?
Right. And why? I mean, it looks like something from Oblivion. Have you watched that?
Oh, of course. Great movie. Tom Cruise.
Yeah, amazing movie. Tom Cruise, exactly. So it's really weird.
And
Alien
Morgan
technology and the metallic, and Morgan Freeman, of course. So there was that from the website. There was something you shared with me about 4K video from the moon.
I just thought I just thought it was like cool to look at. But yeah, we now have 4K footage of the moon. It's interesting. It's really cool. I mean, there's nothing
really cool.
There's nothing like weird or strange about it. It's just cool footage that I thought.
But it's 4K footage, right?
People
Is this
would like.
Who's this? The Chinese or
I believe it is the Chinese. Yes.
Is this the one that has the Earth actually rising? Yes, it does. There it is.
Yeah.
Okay,
Very
so I've seen it before.
very cool footage. If you guys want to see what the moon looks like in high definition, check this video out. And it's got the Earth rising over the ridge. It's cool footage.
Think Tank shared this, but this has been making the rounds. This is Canada. It is a classified and a classified memo to Trudeau about the UFO that we shot down over Yukon.
Oh, that's right.
So this has been linked. NORAD had been tracking UAP number 23, of course, over Yukon, entering Canadian airspace. Blocked. NORAD numbers objects on a sequential basis. Track. Blah blah blah. Anyway, this is the one that we shot down. We've shared this before over Canada, over Alaska. That there was that one YouTuber, right, that shared his video of where it was shot down, and we apparently didn't go get it.
Well, supposedly we didn't go get it.
Supposedly we didn't go get it.
First time in 30 years, the Canadian government is set to carry out a study on UFOs.
Cute.
It's called the Sky Canada Project, and it will seek to better understand unidentified flying objects. Joining us now is Paul Delaney, Professor Emeritus of Physics and Astronomy at York University, here to discuss this
in his living room
study. So, Paul,
I wasn't going to say anything. I said last week I wasn't going to say that anymore.
All right, I'll bring it up now.
Study to take place in 30 years. Just how big is this?
Well, anytime that you start trying to
Are his eyes closed?
Yeah, it looks like it, huh?
I got credible information to better.
I've got two things to say. The weather ticker on the far right side, it was like -11, -22, -4, and it's all now and then it keeps going on. It's like 2 degrees, 4 degrees. 3 degrees.
Poor Canada.
And also, I just want to say, okie dokie there, boy.
Okie dokie there, Canadians.
Okie dokie there, buddy.
All right, we have a lot to get through, so I'm just gonna skip through as quickly.
Yeah, let's just zoom through this.
All right, so this is Sunday World. Anyway, tinfoil facts are going. UFO technology to be revealed in controlled disclosure campaign. This is because it's in the NDAA 2023 bill. It's called Controlled Disclosure Campaign Plan. With respect to unidentified anomalous phenomenon, this is law, folks. Records, particular information in unidentified anomalous phenomenon records, recover technologies of unknown origin, and biological evidence for non-human intelligence, the public disclosure of which is postponed pursuant to Section 06, or for which only substitutions or summaries have been disclosed to the public. The review board shall create and transmit to the president and to the archivist a controlled disclosure campaign with classified appendix containing blah blah blah. Anyway,
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just gonna anything that they don't want to release, they'll classify as national security. All right, what's this?
Well, this works too. This is Richard Dolan. He's 100% right here. Let's listen to him.
You can see this happening. Corporations, Lockheed, Boeing, Raytheon, they're going to say, yeah, we didn't find anything. And that's going to be the end of it.
Right.
Do you think people are going to be able to go into Skunk Works or whatever other secret department that may be within Lockheed Martin and say, oh, here's your UFO program?
Nope.
That Grush and Elizondo and others have been hinting about and talking about. So they're not going to find it. And so you could easily see a narrative taking place where the establishment narrative will be, well, yeah, we looked for it, it's not there. Okay, nothing to see here. It's done. And the same with the whole records release. What will get released through FOIA? Will something major be released? Well, there may be some UFO sightings that get released. I could see that. We had in the early years of FOIA, Freedom of Information in this country, in the late 70s, there were some really fascinating military documents that were released. And they had a little bit of an impact at the time, and then they just basically got forgotten. I could easily see this happening. In other words, that toothpaste that got squeezed out of the tube over the last few years, some of it may just dry up on the table and be ignored, and some of it may get squeezed right back into that tube. And the cap gets screwed back on, and we could easily be in a place not far off from where we were before this all started. The ball may have moved a little bit farther down the field, maybe 20, 30 yards, and boom, you had a wall of defense that's just not letting it move any further. That's possible. So, like, in other words, this is a factional war, to answer your question. And this is not necessarily, we're not at the point yet where the true ruling elite says, all right, let's roll this out in a controlled way, following the old time-worn CYA rule so that we don't get into trouble. That could happen. A limited, controlled disclosure, that's still on the table. But I don't think we're there yet. I think we're still looking at a real possibility of that lid getting slammed right back down and screwed tight. That's still a possible outcome for the next 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. That could still happen.
10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. Thanks, Richard. But, he's
right.
He knows it.
Yeah.
It could be slapped back down again.
I mean, it's just like 2017 when the first evidence that the government was like acknowledging UFOs. I mean, we didn't hear anything for 5 more years after that.
No, we didn't. And so we're trying to go through quickly here. Lazar apparently has a new project, or there's a new documentary about him. It's called Gravitor. An in-depth and visually stunning account of the time Bob Lazar worked on reverse engineering alien technology at S Forum. The film is set to release in December 23. I hope this is much better than Corbell's attempt at this. You want to go to this one? What is it? I bet you.
I'd be down to go check it out.
Yeah. All right.
Why not?
All right. Cool. Let's see. Just because we're getting through quickly, there's that 50s one that crashed. Oh, the National Archives released more stuff about Roswell, but saying that it's again that it's stupid balloons and shit. So people started releasing stuff again about what it really was, how it looked, how the aliens looked.
They look like
yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, you commented about this.
Yeah.
And then this allegedly is an actual photo from Roswell.
Yeah, I don't know if
Looks
I
like
trust
some GI Joes there. Then there's a lot of affidavits that came out. Also, this is from the National Archives. Click to interact. Can I actually look at it? Oh, damn it. Oh, there we go. This is National Archives. My name is Thomas Jefferson DeBose. Here's his address. I retired from the U.S. Air Force in 1959 with the rank of Brigadier General. In July 1947, I was stationed at Fort Worth Army Airfield, later Carswell Air Force Base in Fort Worth, Texas. I served as Chief of Staff to Major General Roger Ramey, Commander 8th Air Force. I had the rank of Colonel. In early July, I received a phone call from Major General Clements McCullen, Deputy Commander, Strategic Air Command. He asked what we knew about the object, which had been recovered outside Roswell, New Mexico, as reported by the press. I called William Blanchard, commander of the Roswell Army Airfield, and directed to him to send the material in a sealed container to me at Fort Worth. I so informed General McCullen. After the plane from Roswell arrived with the material, I asked the base commander, Colonel Al Clark, to take possession of the material and to personally transport it in a B-26 to D.C. I notified McMullen, and he told me he would send the material by personal carrier on its plane to Benjamin. Yeah. So if this was just a balloon, would they do that?
that'd be ridiculous. I mean, they obviously, this shows, obviously it wasn't a balloon.
It was not a balloon.
People
all.
took this very, very seriously.
Yeah, exactly. This is on archive.org. It is the it's a top secret. That's right. U.S. Air Force intelligence report. Yeah, about it was actually ordered to be destroyed. This is the one that was ordered to be destroyed, but it's on archive.org. It's from 1948. Project Sign, which concluded that these things are alien, which the Air Force did not like and told them to like redo the study or something.
Yeah, make it seem like they're not aliens.
No, yeah, exactly. So that came out. Oh, did you see this? This is on livescience2.com.
I don't think I saw this.
It is a biological it is biological in origin. First analysis of weird golden orb from ocean floor leaves scientists stumped. 2 days ago, the golden dome-shaped object was discovered in the Gulf of Alaska during an NOAA expedition, and after bringing it to the surface, scientists still have no idea what it is.
That doesn't look like an orb to me.
Maybe it was an orb. I think
it probably was an orb. It looked like it got smashed.
Quote unquote orb. There we go.
A mysterious golden orb, quote unquote orb, found at the bottom of the ocean during a research expedition is quote unquote biological in origin, but scientists have no idea what it is. I mean, we've got a lot of mysteries in our ocean. I mean, what have they said? Like 5% of our oceans are
unexplored.
Well, no, 5% have been explored.
Sorry, yeah.
So much of our ocean has not been explored.
Yeah, we know more about space than we know about.
Yeah.
All right, now this is important. We can stop here if you want. There's other stuff, but I think this is a very important for our listeners and viewers to hear. There has been a Air Force general that supported Grush and his claims. And let's take a listen.
July 28th, 2023. I received a Proton Mail quote. Linda, there has been a large posting on the ATS Above Top Secret website backing up David Grush's statements and claims. Then it was put on Reddit in the early morning of July 28th, 2023, before it was taken down only 3 hours later. I got these screenshots before it was gone, close quote. Here's Reddit at 1:21 a.m. on July 28th, 2023, where the red arrow is, quote. This is a comment on a YouTube video that was recently uploaded by a body language analyst looking for anomalies in David Grush's recent interview. The comment has since been deleted, but I did the service of collecting screenshots because I knew it wouldn't stay up. Many online sleuths believe the comment to have been made by Major General John A. Allen Jr., a U.S. Air Force Major General who serves as commander of the Air Force Installation and Mission Support Center in San Antonio, Texas. The Mission Support Center's job is, quote, to ensure the Air Force and Space Force have the capable power projection platforms they need to execute their missions, close quote. I am sharing this content with you tonight without knowing for certain it's General Allen who did the Reddit posting. But here is the first of a series of 16 paragraphs on 8 black and white screenshots that were briefly posted in the Reddit comments by a J. Allen after midnight on July 28th, 2023, and taken down only 3 hours later. The Reddit comments begin, quote, as a current aero engineer for the U.S. Air Force, 26 years and still going, I can help you decode at least some of this. First, I know that Grush has only limited ability to talk about this subject. He did get clearance to speak to a certain extent, but he must withhold quite a bit in order to avoid very serious law violations. So expect him to be holding back some things he could say, and this also necessitates rephrasing on the fly language that he would normally use. Second, this retrieval program is real and is the most highly classified program in the United States. The program is called Zodiac, and this may or may not come out in the public hearing soon. Take this in when viewing this man's speech, meaning Grush. He is trying to talk to us about the most highly classified project in the world. People have historically died, lost careers, lost family due to this secret. So to say this is stressful to talk about would be an understatement. Third, when Grush shook his head, talking about the spacecraft and alien, it's because we don't really think this is what they are. But this term is in common use publicly and is as close as we can describe the phenomena to the general public and be understood. These are much more than spacecraft. They are transmedium interdimensional craft, to the best of our knowledge. And on the alien aspect, this is just the easiest term that we have because we don't really know for sure, but this term is pretty close. At present, we consider most of these beings to be advanced biological, AI, or manufactured beings. Lastly, I can tell you from my own experience while on duty, these are real. I can tell you this because I was present on 2 occasions where these craft were above our base watching us. I wasn't read into this program. I can only tell you I was there on 2 occasions, kind of happenstance, and they are as real as the nose on your face. Comments. Due to these persistent questions in response to my post, how am I able to talk about these things openly, including the project name and so forth? Also, why don't I come forward as well and prove it type of questions? Question on transmedium and multidimensional and so forth. Transmedium and interdimensional craft. This question keeps repeating, so let me explain transmedium craft and interdimensional very, very basically and briefly. Transmedium means that they can operate in space, Earth gravity, Earth atmosphere, and underwater without any problem. Space, which is a vacuum and exposed to very hot and very cold temperatures, depending on where the sun is, as well as very high levels of radiation and also subject to collision with high-speed meteoroids and space debris when in Earth orbit. That covers space. The non-humans also can operate in the atmosphere without interacting with it. We determine this because the speed these objects are moving relatively is generously thousands of miles per hour, yet we see no friction coefficient that we would expect from the air compression. Quick example, hold your hand out the window of the car at highway speed. You will experience friction pushing your hand around. Now, imagine your car going thousands of miles an hour instead of 70 miles an hour. That would normally create so much friction that a fireball would form at your fingertips. This doesn't happen. So the craft are observed inside our atmosphere, but they don't interact with it. These craft clearly have their own gravity field because they can instantly accelerate, stop, make a 90-degree turn without any inertial effect. If gravity inertia were to be having an effect, the craft itself would tear apart and the occupants would be dead far earlier than that. We have seen these craft go straight down from the upper atmosphere right into the ocean with no problem. So they seem to be phased out of our physical dimension in some way because they don't immediately crash or explode doing this. Comments. Furthermore, they then proceed to move at unbelievably high speed under the water, which is far more dense than atmosphere. Lastly, there are no discernible flight control surfaces on these craft, which are typically, but not in all cases, either a disc shape, a cube shape, or a sphere shape. Finally, touching on the interdimensional aspect, these craft very often just appear out of nowhere. We are not tracking them coming in from outer space and coming down to Earth. They tend to just appear. And the descriptions of what this looks like is so far out there, I will refrain from describing it here and now. There is nothing normal about these craft operationally with the science we currently understand. Perhaps the super secret group working this problem has new and improved physics models based on observation or intelligence, but we are not privy to this in general. This science team has revealed some of the science relative to these observations, but many questions remain. For the science team reference, go to Dr. Hal Puthoff and Dr. Eric Davis comments on these, and you will need to try many different sources to get to these data. Google and Yahoo search actively filter out these guys' names in a search as part of the cover-up. I am completely serious. Use other means if you want to actually find this data. Comments. Project code name. Let me just relay how the project secrecy works. If that information is revealed by intention or accident, the program immediately is canceled. Changes, names, and often leadership so that it cannot be tracked, or possibly more importantly, cannot be audited. Information that comes out into the public sphere can be referenced without reprisal because I or we are not the ones breaking the secrecy on it. Therefore, what I have done here is compile some information to help corroborate Grush's testimony. I am in a place where I just have more situational awareness of these data than most people, so I am being of service to Grush, my U.S. Air Force brother, and you, the public, trying to digest and absorb the information. My personal intent with this message, I have only 2 goals here, neither of which benefit me in any way. First is to support Grush, as he needs all the support he can get. Second, to provide some extra information to the public so that you can process this, because what comes next is going to cause some psychological distress to a vast majority of the public. The really big questions have yet to be asked, considered, answered, and then absorbed. Comments. Best to get prepared mentally now, because soon this new reality is going to be forced on you, which will cause psychological distress for many. Just start digesting these simple things now, and it gets much more complex. I have come forward right here. I am also lending support in other forums for Grush, but that is as far as I can go. I will not risk revealing anything classified. I have kept my own story secret for decades, and that will not change, period. Also, Grush has a level of safety due to his official position on the Congressional Task Force, his reporting this up the chain to the Inspector General and congressional oversight. I have no such protection and will support as much as I can on the sidelines to protect my family, myself, and my clearance. And believe me, this is a very real threat. Any of you are welcome to trade places with me and risk yourself and your own family.
All right, I think that's enough. But I think that was important to share.
Yeah, definitely.
It came out only a couple of days ago, although it said it was in July, right? When the posts were done. But these things take time to come out, right?
They always do. Yeah.
There are other stuff of like UFO videos, but if we had a normal show or a usual show, we would have shared those. But I think we're passing 2 hours now, right?
Yeah, but I mean, about 15 minutes of that is going to get cut out because you weren't able to connect. But I do think we should kind of wrap it up.
Okay. Yes, let's wrap it up. I think this was fun, except for these stupid internet problems that I'm having.
Yeah, man, you're the internet guy. I'm surprised you're having all these issues.
Yeah, and it happens at certain times. I mean, it didn't happen at this time. I mean, we can map out when it happens, you know.
Try and schedule around that.
yeah, exactly.
Well,
but I mean, in general, I think this country and maybe the globe has really awakened to the UFO reality, and that's why that clip is so important, because he's like, just be ready. You are going to be shocked. I mean, you and I though, and you know, many of people like us who have been thinking about this subject are already primed for it, so we won't be shocked. We will be shocked, like, yes, wow, but we've been asking the questions for a long time, right?
Very long time.
Even just on the show, you and I have been asking, like, what are they? What is it? Is it religious? Is it spiritual? Is it future? Is it, you know, all that stuff, which is going to surprise a lot of people, and this is officially disclosed. I mean, it's going to not hurt, but I guess, what's it called? Ontological shock?
Well, I don't know. It'll be liberating for people like you and me, I think, so we can finally just be like, okay, yes, see, everything we believed in was true. I mean, hopefully that's the case. Hopefully it's not this quote unquote disclosure is, oh, this truly is all US and Chinese technology, and we've just been fucking with you guys for a long time.
That might be it. But I think it's but Hal Puthoff was caught saying it's a zoo because technology has gotten so advanced that, yes, it's going to be a lot of humans, it's going to be a lot of countries, and it's going to be a lot of aliens and maybe other civilizations on this planet. That's the problem with it being secret for 80 years or more.
Yeah. I mean, they really screwed up that way.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't know. I just think if they had been doing this the right way, if, you know, disclosures really coming out, it shouldn't just be an all at once thing. It should have been slowly, you know, revealed over the course of the last couple decades. But of course, they couldn't do that because they got to hold on to their secrets.
Yeah. Well, it kind of has been, right, in movies and like TV shows.
I guess. But is that the best way to like announce something that people aren't aware of?
I was just gonna say, like, the problem also with people that wake up to 9/11, they become flat earthers, but then they also believe space is fake. So then they believe that all this alien stuff is fake too. And then, you try to tell them, like, listen, no, they've been saying since whenever that aliens are fake. So no, that's not the psyop. Like, I don't know. 9/11 is really, and now that we're closing this episode's out, 9/11 has reinvigorated flat Earth theory, right? Because people stop believing in their institutions, so they're lying about science, they're lying about whatever. So Earth must be flat, and then that goes into also the whole UFO, the real UFO disclosure. They're saying no, that's a psyop, and it's not really happening.
Yeah, I mean, this episode started with all the 9/11 stuff, and I think it ruined a lot of. I mean, just like COVID did, I think 9/11 ruined a lot of the way they view the world.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people saw how I don't want to say fake, but just how weird it was, and then they were completely disregarded and called kooks.
Yeah, for just questioning it.
Just asking questions, not being like, it didn't happen, but just asking like, okay, why did Building 7 fall? You know, and when they're not giving sufficient answers and completely disregarded, a lot of people, went down a weird path. It happens. It's the exact same thing with COVID. You ask a simple question and you get called a some sort of bigot. And and then you're going down a weird path. It happens.
It does happen, and government secrecy is to blame. That's it. Really, all of those come back to that.
Yeah,
just be transparent.
I was just about to say, Obama, one of his key things was government transparency. When that when that doesn't happen, people get disenfranchised.
Same thing with Trump, right? He's like, I'm going to drain the swamp.
Right. And then doesn't follow up on that. No. Disenfranchised.
Yeah. He spent the double, I think, amount of money Obama spent. And like,
we're going to lock up Hillary. Doesn't happen. Disenfranchised.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's why now, we're seeing, we were talking about this last week, is Arrow launched the new website because they want to show transparency. Right, that was the theme of last week.
But
yeah, that's all we ask for as citizens of this country, right? It's just more transparency. Stop the lying, stop the gaslighting, stop treating us like children.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, I just think people want to trust their government, and when you start realizing that you can't, everything kind of goes to shit. That's why Jan 6 happened.
Yeah, and it's not like, I don't want to even get into that, but
we don't have to get into that.
Yeah, there was that documentary I shared with you. Wait, was that? Oh, there's that comedy one that you always share with me. That I'm sure we've shared before. But do you want to end it with this one?
I can't see what you're.
Oh, are you sure? What?
Yeah.
Oh, I know why.
I'm not proud of what I did. Joel and I had one of our big blow-up arguments yesterday, screaming in each other's faces, spit flying through the air. Sure as heck wasn't pretty. We both said some things we weren't proud of, that I will admit. But looking back on it, I think the moment I'm least proud of is when I grabbed him by the shirt, lifted him up off the ground, and threw him right off a cliff. I mean, sure, we've argued before. At the store, in the car, at another store, in the woods. But none of those arguments ended with his body hurtling through the air, hundreds of feet to the ground. I wonder if my neighbors know that 13 hours ago I sent my friend ragdolling through the air to his demise. I've had these plans to play basketball with Dylan for weeks, but my head's just not in the game. Instead, it's thinking of Joel soaring through the air like a beautiful falcon or blue jay, only to be splattered like a pancake. Now that I think of it, we did have one argument near a cliff, Thankfully, we settled that before I hooked them right off the darn thing. I see Dylan talking, but I just can't hear him at all. All I hear are Joel's screams as he sailed through the air. Sailing, sailing, sailing forevermore. Do you think Joel touched God before his body was eviscerated? I'm sorry, Dylan. I'm not going to be proud of this.
Just the stupid
Absolutely
image,
ridiculous.
the stupid image of them flying through the air and going, ah!
Oh my
Always
God.
makes me laugh. I love that video. That's that's Joel Haver, Haver on YouTube. Check it out.
So
Oh, are you
funny.
gonna play a song?
No, I think you're probably going to end the show with this one, right? Oh, 'cause I don't know
if we're allowed to. By the way, we are gonna have a new ending song here pretty soon, but let's close it out with this. So this has been the Uncovering Anomalies podcast. That is, I want to believe Adam. I'm Tip Top Goatee Topher. And thank you so much for listening to our 9/11 deep dive plus some quick UFO stuff at the end. And
yes,
we appreciate you. We appreciate you. Wow, all so much for listening.
Yeah, we do. And watching too, right? Now that we're on YouTube.
Yeah, as we stated earlier, this episode won't be on YouTube because there's a lot of bummer stuff that happened.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. And it's going to take a lot of editing, which is not going to work.
Yeah.
But you guys can watch us on or listen to us on all major podcasting platforms.
Yeah, I think the big ones are Spotify and Apple.
Yeah.
What's that? What was that one that shut down? I think it's down.
Stitcher.
Stitcher's down now, right? It's done.
Stitcher's down now. Is bought by SiriusXM or is that Pandora or something that they own?
I have no idea. I don't really care.
But yeah, so Stitcher's gone now because we are in September. So I'm sure those listeners have gone somewhere else. But yeah, you can listen to us on any platforms. Follow us on Twitter. We've had Ivan Tech lately, or X, yes. X.com. We've been sharing some older UFO videos. There was one from Sweden, which a lot of the UFO community said was debunked, but then looking into it, it wasn't really debunked. It was, but then whoever did it didn't come forward, and that's always an issue when someone doesn't come forward, you know.
And we've got a serious problem online of people just going like, debunked, and then providing no proof that it was actually truly in fact debunked.
Right. Oh, fake. That's been faked. You know, stuff like that. But definitely follow us on Twitter. We're always active on there. Follow Topher at Topher at all. You can follow me at Breakaway Civil on Twitter.
Oh, you're sharing that?
Yeah. Actually, I put it on our profile.
Oh, okay, cool.
That I'm co-host. So that's on there. But yeah, we're at UAP the podcast. The podcast official X or Twitter is on that.
And as always, everything that we've talked about here today can be found in the show notes.
Yes, show notes of the podcast platform as well, because YouTube won't let us yet. We said that at the beginning of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Also see us on YouTube at Uncovering Anomalies Podcast. They give us that handle automatically, which I've never seen happen before. So it's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we're at 2 minutes, 2 hours, 20 minutes. Probably 20 minutes of that is
absolute silence, or me practicing my stand up, which honestly I'm not good off the cuff, so it's not very good. I might leave some of it in. It'd be a good learning experience for me. Anyway, thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you all next week.
See you next week.
I really think the war on terror is a bunch of bullshit. Just a poor excuse for you to use up all your bullets. How much money does it take to really make a full clip? 9/11 Building 7, did they really pull it? And a bunch of other cover-ups. Your child's future was the first to go with budget cuts. If you think that hurts, then wait, here comes the uppercut. The school was garbage in the first place. That's on the up and up. Keep you at the bottom, but tease you with the upper crust. You get it, then they move it, so you never keeping up enough. If you turn on TV, all you see is a bunch of what the fucks. Dude is dating so-and-so, blabbering about such and such, and that ain't Jersey Shore. Homie, that's the news. And these the same people supposedly telling us the truth. Limbaugh is a racist. Glenn Beck is a racist. Gaza Strip was getting bombed. Obama didn't say shit. That's why I ain't vote for him. Next one either. I'm a part of the problem. My problem is I'm peaceful, and I believe in the people. Yeah. It's so loud. If we never heard it, but if we know better, then we probably deserve it. Jihad is not holy war. Where's that in the worship? Murdering is not Islam, and you are not observant. And you are not a Muslim. Israel, don't take my side, cause look how far you've pushed them. Walk with me into the ghetto, this where all the kush went. Complain about the liquor store, but what you drinking liquor for? Complain about the gloom, but when you pick a broom up, just listen in the pot, ain't gon' make it stop. A rebel in your thoughts, ain't gon' make it out. If you don't become an actor, you'll never be a factor. Pills with million side effects, take them when the pain's felt. Wash them down with diet soda, killing off your brain cells. Crooked banks around the world will gladly give a loan today. So if you ever miss a payment, they can take your home away. Worse than all the violence. Fear is such a weak emotion, that's why I despise it. We scared of almost everything, afraid to even tell the truth. So scared of what you think of me, I'm scared of even telling you. Sometimes I'm like the only person I feel safe to tell it to. I'm locked inside a cell in me, I know that there's a gel in you. Consider this your belling out, so take a breath and hell a few. My screams is finally getting free, my thoughts is finally yelling down.